I am an editor.
I am a teacher of film and English.
I am a screenwriter.
Yo soy. I am an actor.
I love to read stories to the kids every Saturday.
I'm an actress.
I am.
I'm a producer and I help my group finish what we have to do. I first thought that film was going to be easy, just taking a camera, filming other people and just putting it in. But I learned that it isn't that easy. You have to be creative with the editing. Actually think of your shots. Think of your script.
I'm getting used to be writing, working hard.
It got me with better grades and writing. It opens up careers.
Working in a group is pretty hard because some kids won't really listen to you. You have to put pressure on them, but if they don't understand, just stop and think for a minute. How can I help them? Let's understand their feelings. So we finish the movie and not fail our mission that we try to do.
I want to do a little icebreaker, so we're gonna do a little icebreaker. This and that. I got 5 questions for you.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Okay.
Martin or Fresh Prince?
Martin.
In Living Color or SNL?
In Living Color.
Chance the Rapper or Kanye West?
Even though Chance is the future, Kanye set the path in order for Chance to exist. So I'll go with Kanye.
Okay. World peace or elimination of racism?
I think both are the same thing.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last, who made you cry with their death more? Mufasa or Queen Latifah and Set It Off?
Interesting. Well, I saw a lot of myself in Cleo. So I'm going to go there. But I was a youngin' when the Lion King and all that stuff happened. So it was really interesting. And also, not to get too deep this early on, but if you think about Scar, his character was very effeminate. And there's something very interesting about his character. If you really have critical thinking, there's an element that he's a gay lion. And so it's very interesting that that's who kills Mufasa. And obviously he's the villain. But yeah, I mean, you can go look at it. I mean, it's like everything from his wrists to the way he like walks and prowls. So I actually feel a connection to Scar because he was othered and different. And also he's sort of the black sheep of the family for reasons we don't know. But you know, when Cleo goes, I mean, that's always tough. Because it's also just sort of black life. But also like the way she went out shooting. So both may be on equal. They may be equal footing.
Okay, cool. All right, that was it. That's all I
Yeah,
have.
it's good. It's good.
Let's get this going. So clearly we're here. We're in Sundance. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
It's good.
Congratulations.
Congrats to you on being here, your first Sundance.
Thank you. Is this your first time?
No, it's my second. First time I was here, it was with Dear White People.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how has the experiences been different in this? Do you have anything to say about those 2 experiences?
Well, yeah. I mean, both phenomenal. I mean, this is my second day here, but the first time, I feel like nothing beats your first time because it's all new. You've only heard about it and read about it, but also to be here with the movie that was also in competition is huge. And also for us, we came in here, you know, thinking we were rock stars. Like people were talking about Dear White People years before it even was a movie or before we even submitted it to Sundance. So when we got here, people were wearing Dear White People buttons. They were like asking for swag. We had a phenomenal party. We try to bring, you know, some melanin to Sundance, you know, whenever we come through. So it was really beautiful. I felt like a young pup. And I think this time around, I feel like a little bit, you know, I kind of got my swagger up. I kind of come in here with a TV show and like, you know, it's funny. I just saw Tessa. I was at the Respect rally earlier this morning. And obviously Tessa's back. She has a film here. Sorry to bother you. So for us, you know, we hugged each other and we thought, wow, what a difference a couple of years makes since we've been here with Dear White People, and both of our careers have really flourished, and obviously in Justin Simeon as well. So for me, it feels like I'm coming back home after having graduated college. You know.
Speaking of like college and taking it back.
Yeah.
Let's take it back. When you were on your grind, when you were on your come up, was there like an aha moment where you were like, this is for me and there's nobody going to take it away from me?
Well, I had that moment, I think, when I was a young kid, you know, in the south side of Chicago, watching A Different World and Martin and Living Single and Cosby Show and all that kind of stuff. That's when I realized, oh, whatever this is, I want to be a part of it. And I just so interesting. And I don't know if it's I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Chicago in me. Maybe it's my, my Southern roots. But I just really never knew what a plan B was, or like, oh, this is gonna be it. It's just sort of like, this is my dream. This is the goal. I'm gonna say it, and the universe is gonna bend to my will.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Take us back, because you were here because The Shy is like what? Like, first of all, one more time for The Shy.
No, you're
Man,
yeah.
I saw it. We saw it on YouTube. Me and my boyfriend saw it on YouTube,
Oh, yeah.
and we were like, we have to see it uncensored because we gotta
I know,
see
I
this.
know, I
Like,
know.
we gotta feel this.
Yeah.
And we felt it.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
That means a lot.
Yeah. Take us back when you was writing The Shy.
Mm-hmm.
To where you were mentally, physically, emotionally, just your world. Paint a picture for us.
It's funny because I wrote it soon after I had gotten home from, like, I think Sundance, and the first Sundance doing Dear White People. And I don't know, I was living in the Valley in LA, reading a lot of Baldwin, watching a lot of TV and seeing a lot of stories come out about Chicago. And I was just in a place of like, okay, I'm ready to write something new. And I didn't really know what that thing was going to be. But I really think it was a combination of just reading a lot of, like I said, Baldwin, Hughes, and just really seeing how they would tell the story of us, but not necessarily from their own perspective in an interesting way. Because Baldwin is known. I mean, there's been speculation about Hughes, but the element in that, particularly I'll speak to Baldwin coming from a queer black male perspective, but him still writing stories that were heterosexual, some sort of tapped into the queer space, but he really just he was a journalist in a way, not unlike Lorraine Hansberry and things like that. That's what was really speaking to me about these black writers who at one point were in a small apartment in Harlem writing about us and seeing the God in us, honestly, and depicting that. So that way they would always have that here. When you put words on a page, you can burn it, but it still exists.
Amen.
And so I think that's, to me, where my head was at. I was like, oh, I want to take a picture of us, in high definition, and I want to be really human, and I want to be really black, and I want to be really Chicago. Those are three things I know very well. And so I was like, I'm gonna just write this thing, and it really sort of, and I spent a lot of time doing character development and outlining it because it was my first drama. I never written an hour long. Everything I'd written was comedy. So, but I was just like, well, I got to write this. Like, this is the story that's wrestling in my spirit. So my whole apartment looked like True Detective, trying to figure out, and if you've seen the pilot, you know why. Trying to figure out which character meets when and how they're connected. And my whole mission was, how do I get Brandon to Kevin? And just sort of like mapping all that stuff out. And yeah, man, I just really poured my soul onto my laptop and didn't even think about like, oh yeah, this is about to get this made. It was literally just something I had to get out. So, and then Justin Simeon, speaking of Justin, he read it first. He always sent him everything first, and before I sent things out to the world. And he literally sent me a video message saying, this is the best thing you've ever written. You need to like go do it. And that actually really gave me the confidence I needed, where I was like, all right, I told my reps, I'm like, you got to send this out. And they're like, you're going to send a drama out into the marketplace? Everything you've ever done is comedy? I was like, yeah. And I was like, let's do it. And they were a little nervous. And so I said to them, look, send it to a couple production companies so that you don't go wide. And I was like, if the reaction is positive, just keep sending it out. If there's sort of some hesitancy or people are a little reserved about it, I'll go back in and I'll maybe do some rewrites. But I did that knowing that the reaction was going to be positive, knowing that I wasn't ever going to do rewrites or anything like that. So luckily the experiment worked. They sent it out to a couple production companies, and people just really responded to it right away. And it was on ever since.
Because it's that damn good.
Yo, man, I received that. But really, it's not me. It's the muse. It's God working through me. I'm just a vessel.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of The Shy, right? What character is your favorite, or do you relate to most, and why?
They're all my children. I don't have a favorite.
Moms be saying that, that though, but they always have like that one where they're like,
But I mean, there's a little bit of me in all of them. There's a lot of me in Brandon. The whole thing about dating a girl from the right side of the tracks and having a very unique dream that the family don't understand, and also living between those worlds. Working in a space that there's not many people of color in, and also sort of like wrestling from where you come from versus where you're trying to get to, and being in the middle and trying to figure out, holding on to your roots and who you are, but also leaving space for yourself to grow into who the person you're meant to be. So I think there's a lot of like just me and him. But, Emmett is like, there's that sort of hype beast, that desire to have those cool things, is there. And obviously I named him for the beautiful sacrificial lamb, Emmett Till. And he really he's like a lot of the guys I went to high school with.
I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, he's such a great character. Jacob Lattimore is phenomenal as that character. It's not the easiest character, I think, honestly, even though it's fun and cool. But it's a tough character. He's struggling with what it means to be a single father.
Absolutely.
And a lot of things we wrote for him was really just trying to be honest. Like, what does it mean to be in your late teens, Black, living with your mom and having a kid, around with that the mom is gone. He don't know what he got to do. And so it's about him trying to hustle, make a living, really trying to figure out what it means to be a man, which is really interesting. And then Ronnie, who was named for my uncle, my mother's brother, who recently passed. So I think the character is even that much more close to my heart. But his name was literally Ronnie. My uncle used to date a woman named Tracy. Like, I put all that stuff in there. And Ronnie is like so, I think, sympathetic and, such, again, a complicated character. And I think I'm grateful to Carmen Cuba for the casting decision to go with Natari, who was also fantastic, to cast him a little bit older, because that wasn't really how I wrote him on the page. And so her decision to go that route, I think, was really smart, because I think it really helps the audience to get a sense of the fact that he literally is the representation of Langston Hughes' poem, A Dream Deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? That's really he's the humanization of that. And so I'm really grateful to him for bringing all those unique colors that I hadn't even seen yet.
Yeah.
And then obviously too, Kevin, who really represents a sense of hope, and just, but also Alex Hibbert from Moonlight. I mean, we're honored to have him and be like, I think really the second thing people have seen him in since Moonlight. But he's really just a phenomenal young actor, and just he just feels everything. You can see everything on his face. He's so mature. And he's phenomenal. He really does represent what I think every young Black male represents in Chicago, in terms of there's a lot of possibility there. He can either go left, he can go right. And that's what I love about it. It's kind of scary because you don't know. And for Brandon to come into his life, it's very interesting. And Brandon trying to maybe be the surrogate big brother. And then obviously Coogie, who I love, and there's so much of me and him, and the way he talks to people and the way he sort of moves through the world. And also the fact that he's a little different. He's a yellow flower, he's like a dandelion in a sea of roses.
I thought he was a girl.
Well, I mean, because I think here's the deal. He really does have like super long hair, and he doesn't really, I think, like care about which role he needs to fit into, which I think even makes him even that much more unique and amazing and specific. But he does look the way I wrote Coogie to look. I was like, I knew I wanted him and Brandon to be half brothers. I knew I wanted to speak to that, and also knew that I wanted him to be this sort of light that, I don't want to ruin, but that ultimately goes out in the pilot.
But he is that, though, because you watch. I'm on. Obviously, it was only 2 episodes out, but you watch the second.
This Sunday though, new episode.
Let's do it. We'll be there.
Yes,
we'll be watching.
yes.
So you see in the second episode, obviously he's not in it,
right?
But you still remember him.
Yeah.
Like, he was that piece that was like that. He opened up the show, and then his energy still translated to the second episode. So it was great casting, but also great written as his character.
Thank you.
And to speak on that, so a conversation arose yesterday, and I heard it 2 weeks ago about comparing The Chi to The Wire, right? And I was like, absolutely not. And not to say that The Wire wasn't great, because it was like two different shows. And I say one thing about The Chi that I took away and have been taken away is the character development.
Right.
The fact that you can grasp these people, because there's good and bad in everyone, and it's just this, like, you see the perplex in people and like the decision making, all of that. I think that's what makes The Chi the show. Because you're holding on to people and you're following their storylines, which is how we are in real life, right? I gravitate to you because I like you for this and this and that reason. And why Game of Thrones is such a huge show, because you're following people and you like it. And you're like, I like this person for this. And I think The Chi has that. did you intentionally write it like that? Like, I'm going to talk about these characters, or I'm gonna like just talk about the overview of the Shy?
Well, it's interesting because I saw that I think I assumed even before the show came out that people would compare it, which I think is a bit of a lazy comparison, just 'cause you see a bunch of black people on the screen. To say, oh, it's like The Wire. The funny thing is, I never really watched The Wire like that. It was never a reference point. So I think it's literally people saying, oh, well, that feels similar. But the main difference is I think that The Wire really focuses on the system. And I have no desire to focus on that. I care about the policed, not the police. I care about the people that the system affects. That to me is always more interesting. I just really enjoy writing two black people in a room talking. That brings me a lot of joy. The cop stuff is there. It's motor. It's there to sort of keep the story going forward. I think hopefully in season 2 we'll figure out a new way to do that. But if I had my druthers, there'd be no cops in it. I mean, I didn't even want to get into Jason's death, honestly, and how he, it's just that's a reality of the world. But those are first season stuff. But my hope is just to really get away from it and literally just continue to have the camera fly into people's windows and really follow them through their lives, because we rarely see people of color with things that sort of have a cinema verite type of vibe, or just following characters, and the little things that make up our lives can be very dramatic and very entertaining. So that's my mission. It's like to really make it about the people, because I could care less about the system and the people in suits and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So to take it back again, you worked under some heavy hitters, like some powerful women in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Mara Brockkill, right, who created Girlfriends in the Game. If y'all don't know, Gina Prince Brightwood, who did Love and Basketball. Oh my God. The Secret Life of Bees. So you worked under these women.
And Ava DuVernay too.
And Ava DuVernay. Yeah. Like how?
Did,
first of all, God was like looking for you.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I got you.
Oh, man,
I got
crazy.
you, Lena.
He did.
What have you taken away from those women that you use now?
I mean, I think I took, I was always learning, from them. And I think a big thing is here's the thing. I think you can't just be great, although that's important. But if you're a woman of color, you have to know how to play chess. You got to know how to be strategic. You got to be Barack Obama. And not in terms of excellence, but in terms of how you move. I think that's the thing when I'm trying to mentor, I like to call them baby writers. But yeah, my big thing is always craft. I'm a purist. It's like if you have a really great script, it's like having a lottery ticket in Los Angeles, because they don't exist. Most scripts are mediocre. Like maybe a couple are good. Every once in a blue moon, you'll read something that's great. I think Sundance is representative of that. Like they're like, we're trying to find, a needle in a haystack. So I always tell them, I'm like, you're starting 10 feet ahead if whichever you have is phenomenal, because Hollywood doesn't care if you have one leg and come from Timbuktu. What that means is that to an exec, a great script that they find and can show their boss that's a promotion. That's that's back end. It just represents so many different things to them. So I always tell people, like, work on, I don't care if it takes you 10 years or whatever to get a script to a really phenomenal place. Once you have that, it's a ticket. Then it's about, because then what people don't realize is like, okay, now your thing is sold and you're on the journey to making that film or TV show. Now the real work begins. Now you got to learn how to, bob and weave with executives. Now you got to learn how to take a note. You got to learn how to, go into a room and make sure they remember you when you leave. And then it's about, making sure you are a part of the marketing and you are a part of these different things. It's not just about making something great, but it's also about becoming a writer that the town wants to work with. And I think that's the thing that sometimes is missing, because folks go, I just want to make it. I just want to get my thing made. And I go like, okay, but making the thing is actually the hardest part of the process, because that's the part that'll break you. Being in production, trying to get things marketed, trying to make sure the agents and managers and executives don't get mad at each other and blow it up. I mean, there's so many factors that happen once you've done it. And then once it comes out, then it's almost, people are asking you, okay, what are you doing next? Because you're only as good as your last project. So then you got to be able to ready to go, okay, now go make something great again. And then push it out. Because again, I'm sure there's a lot of people who come to Sundance who've had a movie at Sundance and then we never hear from them again. So I think it's a matter of not just being like, oh, aren't I great, and resting on those laurels, but it's about what do you have in your back pocket that's also just as good, but hopefully a little different, and not this. So you're showing the town that you're not a one-trick pony. So there's just so many things that you have to be thinking about and working on at the same time. And I really see that's the thing that kind of separates the boys from the men.
Right. So there's a lot. That was a lot, right? For a girl who's trying to do that, what piece of advice would you give a young woman of color who's trying to do that, who's trying to write and create something that's going to be like a stature?
I mean, I think a big thing is like, classes. I mean, I think the thing that also sets me apart is the fact that I went to school for it. Like I literally have a degree in writing and producing in television. So that definitely gave me a bit of a leg up. For some people who did not go to school for it, if the first thing when people come to me and they say, hey, I want to write, I always go, have you ever taken an actual television writing class? They don't exist everywhere. I'm aware of that. In LA, we have one that we trust that we send people to. But there's also online classes now. Like I think they're called like master classes where you can like literally learn from these greats. I don't know how it's not like, oh, you take a class and then you're this amazing writer. No, but it's good to know the basics. It's good to at least sort of be in the like the top, percentile, so that way you don't just have it. Because here's the deal. You can have a script or a project and think it's phenomenal, but if the town isn't responding to it, if they're not saying, oh, this is something I got to make, if they're just bringing you in for a general, there's an element of politeness with that. If they're bringing you in and they're making sure there are bosses in that meeting as well, that's how you may have something a little special. And if they're not bringing their boss in that meeting, that means it's like, enjoy the water and, take their card and hopefully follow up with them because they may not be following up with you. So I think, again, as I know it's not an easy thing, but I really tell people, I'm like, if you got Get Out, if you got Moonlight in your back pocket, like that's the first step. And mind you, people said no to Moonlight. People said no to Get Out, but so sometimes it's a matter of, keep fighting until somebody says, okay, we get this. We're going to try to help you get it out there and we're going to try to market it in the right way. And we're going to try to, hopefully if it makes sense, do a sort of awards campaign because that also is a part of it. I'm a part of that machine as well. I know what that means when you have a golden statue and what kind of place that puts you in the industry. So there's elements of the things you don't want to be writing for that, but you want to write something that's worthy of that, at least. Because again, a lot of these places, that's what they care about. They want to be at these award shows. They want to be on these lists. It's all about sort of jockeying for that sort of position to say, we're the best. I think like all these places want to do that, and they're constantly looking for writers and creators and directors to bring them things that will help brand them in a way that says, we do it the best. And so ultimately, I think there's no one way, but it's about making sure the work is phenomenal. That's always first. And then it's about being super strategic, being really smart. If you have a script, you shouldn't say, okay, send it to everyone. No, because if you really know the market, you should go, there's 3 places that are right for this. Here are the 3 places. Here's why. Based on what the movies they released last year, based on the things they just bought, you know what I'm saying? And I think this is also a really great place to see that. We're literally in a marketplace right now. We're going to see these movies and we can see, that's interesting, who's going to pick that up? Or it's interesting that Netflix bought those 2 particular films. Or it's interesting that, Amazon didn't buy anything, so that's good. You gotta have to be a student of the business, and it's almost like it's like Wall Street. You're constantly watching the market and saying where your thing fits, because I think that's also a problem. People go send it everywhere. It's like no, if you have a project that I can send everywhere, I don't want it.
Right.
That's a little. Be specific.
Right.
Have a voice. Have a point of view.
Who are you watching right now that you like absolutely love as a writer, as a creator?
Better Things is phenomenal. It's one of the most human shows on the planet. It's funny enough, it's being overshadowed by a black show, which is also phenomenal, which is Atlanta, which I really love and think is really, really, really great. I also really like. This show called Easy, which is on Netflix. It's a small show. It takes place in Chicago. Again, very similar verite. You should try to check it out. I don't know, is it half hour or hour long? I don't know. Anyway, it's called Easy. It's really cool. Like I'm in movies that I really like this year. Like Call Me by Your Name is great. Florida Project is phenomenal. Obviously, Get Out. So yeah, it's like, but I'm always looking at things again to be inspired and, like Better Things makes me want to always go back to the drawing board and like be more honest and be really sort of strong. Also, I really like this animated show on Netflix called Big Mouth, which is really funny.
Oh my God, is it?
Yeah, it's really great. Really great.
Sometimes I cringe. I'm like, did they say that? Like, did y'all really do this?
But talk about, and I'm fortunate enough to know some of those guys that work on that show. But it's like I'm very, talk about being specific. Talk about having a voice, having a point of view. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think me and my lovely fiance were talking about this. It's like you can be a really great writer, but what people care about is a voice. Like, do you have a voice? And a lot of people are just like writing, but it's like, can I differentiate your script from someone else's just on site? And I think that's sort of my mission is to make sure people know my voice. People know Sorkin's voice. They know Shonda's. They know Weiner's voice. And I think that takes a lot of practice and a lot of time.
Absolutely.
But if you have a voice, that's something money can't buy.
So, how important is it for communities of color to uplift each other? Because Aziz, an Indian guy, brought you in, a black woman, to come, and he believed in you. He was like, yep, you got it. You have what it is. How important is it in Hollywood for us to be like, nope, let's open the door for Latinos. Let's open it up for Asians. Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's extremely important. I think, and I don't even know, sometimes it's always a conscious decision. Allison Jones, who happens to be a white woman, the casting director of that, he was smart enough to say, bring me interesting people. Just introduce me to interesting people. And then I'll see where I can plug people in. And by the grace of God, she said, well, then you should meet Lena Waithe. And then I went to his house, walked by his Tesla, and went and sat with him. And he was like, oh, well, this is an interesting way to go. Because I don't think he was like, oh, I'm going to be, daring and cast a gay black woman. I think because initially the character was supposed to be straight and a potential love interest for him on the show. So, and mind you, they had already written like the 10 episodes. So he met me and was like, okay, I'm going to go rewrite all those episodes and make her black and make her gay. And because he's like, I think you're interesting and worthy of that. So I was like, okay, cool. So, and here we are, you know what I mean? And so I think it is important, but I think for me, it's not just important to uplift someone because they're a person of color. I want to uplift someone who is a phenomenal artist, who I think is going to leave an imprint on this industry. And if they happen to be a person of color, that's icing. Because it's not enough just to say, oh, this black writer, should come. Like, okay, great. But like, show me what you got. What is your voice?
Right.
How can I be additive? But being born a person of color is not a revolutionary act. It's like, show me what you got.
This is true. What has been the greatest challenge you faced, and how has embracing that experience as a part of your personal story made your career in Hollywood that much better?
I think there's an element of, because it's weird. I don't think of myself as young, but I think because I work in an industry where a lot of the people who are in charge are a little bit older than me, there's an element of, oh, she's talented. I think people respect that, but they're like, oh, but she's young, and let us help, be her parent and shepherd her through this experience. That to me was a little challenging because I do feel like I have a real sense of what I'm trying to do. And I know that my voice is one that I understand us in such a unique way that if they get out of my way and let me do my thing, people will receive it. And I've seen the evidence of that. Because in Thanksgiving, they got out of my way. Like, there was Aziz was like, write your story, like, let's do it. And I really felt the results of that, like, literally and figuratively. So I think to me because while I was sort of being challenged, and at the same time writing the Thanksgiving episode, because that happens, all these things sort of happen at once, I think it was really cool that I got to do that thing and I got to have the freedom and then to be rewarded for it so publicly. And then to have people go, oh, maybe we should trust her. Maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. They had that realization a little bit late in the game, but I'm grateful that the realization came.
As usual.
And so now I think there's an element that comes with that. There's just a level of trust, which is a weird thing. Like, you get a trophy and all of a sudden people go, okay, yeah, we trust your opinion. We trust your judgment.
Blowing up.
But at the end of the day, it's like, I was ready. I was already had so many things chambered already. Like, I had scripts and ideas and things ready to go. So when folks were like, hey, so let's talk about all these projects we want to do with you, I was like, well, I'm busy, but if you want to like help with these things I already got cooking, maybe we can talk. Or I'll see you, in the next cycle of projects. So I was never like waiting for, okay, I got this award now, okay, Hollywood. It was like, no, I just sort of kept doing the same thing I was doing. I've been putting my head down doing the work, and I just continue to do that.
So you didn't feel anything walking away. Obviously, you felt something, but you are the first African-American woman to win an Emmy in a comedy series.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. That's
crazy.
so dope.
Mhm.
What was it like? What was it like for you that night afterwards? Like the realization setting in, or even the morning after? Because that's when I think it really sets in.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. There's no way in hell I'm the first woman of color to write a funny episode of television.
Absolutely not. They're just the only one to get recognized on a platform like that.
Well, the first, hopefully not the last. That's my mission, to ensure that doesn't happen. Because Holly's still the first and only. So,
Holly Robinson?
no, Halle Berry.
Oh, Halle Berry, yeah.
Yeah, she's still the only black woman to win an Oscar for that lead in a motion picture. So that's again. So to me, it's like these moments are really cool, but they can also become quite problematic if nothing really changes. So I think the Emmys that night in general, myself, Donald, Riz, Sterling, it was a phenomenal night. And I definitely think we took a little leap forward, I think in our industry. But by no means does that mean I'm going to go, okay, great. Now we've made some progress. We still have work to do. There's still work that needs to be done. But for me, I think it was, it's interesting. Because I think there's this element of people ask, like, are you surprised? Like, how are you feeling? I'm a person that believes that God has ordered my steps. So when people say, how does it feel? It actually feels quite normal. It shouldn't feel like a shock. My life does not feel like a surprise. This is what God intended all along. I just have to walk into it. I have to be obedient.
Absolutely.
So for me, I'm very grateful. But all of these things are just leverage to help bring other people in. That's what the Emmy represents to me. You know what I'm saying? That's what this movie I'm going to be in, like, at the end of March. Like, it's all leverage to create a ladder for other folks to walk up. That's how I think of it. I win that Emmy and go, wow, that's a phenomenal achievement. I'm so honored and so humbled by it. But then I look at it and go, okay, great. Maybe now if I put my name on so-and-so's pilot, we can get it greenlit. That's what the Emmy means to me.
Absolutely. That's dope. Yeah, I know. That's dope.
Because you can't take it with you. You can't take it with you. You know what I'm saying?
That shit right there, right?
No, it's like you can't. It's like
Can't pick
it's
it
so
up and put it
interesting
down.
because when Whitney Houston passed away, I thought, what are they going to do with all those awards? They didn't go in her casket.
Right, it's what you've done for the people coming up.
Yeah. I don't know how many Grammys she got. I don't know how many American Music Awards she has. I know how it makes me feel when I hear Greatest Love of All. I know how I feel when I watch YouTube videos of her and see her laughing and smiling. That's the legacy.
Absolutely. Do you have somebody in the game that you're mentoring that you feel is gonna just hit it and have their voice
Raquel
resonate?
right here, my assistant. Hey.
Hello. Hi, Raquel.
Yeah.
She's like, oh
I
man.
know, she's like, hey. Raquel.
What was it about Raquel that made you be like, yep,
Well, look, Raquel DM'd me, on IG.
now you're gonna have a bunch of people sliding
They
in your
already
DMs?
do. They already do. And actually, and prior to that, my assistant before was Tiffany Johnson, who was doing really well. She just did the AFI program, Women in Directors program, and she shadowed Melina on Insecure, so she's killing it. And so, but at the time, because things were getting really busy, so she wanted some help. My assistant was like, I need some assistance. So when people hit me often, on Instagram and just say, hey, how can I be involved? Like, what can I do? And the big thing I have people do is get a sense of like how serious they are. Because people send us scripts as well. A lot of people send me scripts that I don't have all the time in the world to read. So I like to sort of have one hand wash the other, where I have my sort of interns or mentees read their material and write coverage on it, because it's important for them to know what coverage is and how to write it, which pretty much is like you read a script and you talk about how many pages, the log line, what the strengths were, what the weaknesses were, and if you would pass or recommend. Simple practice. And so Tiffany, Raquel hit me up. I gave her the spiel. I gave her Tiffany's email, and Tiffany was like, okay, I'm gonna give her some coverage to do. She would do the coverage extremely well. She turned it around really fast. So then when I said, Tiffany, we're gonna officially bring someone else on, who should it be? She's like, Raquel. She's super reliable. She's always on top of it. And so we started working together, all three of us. And then once Tiffany sort of graduated, started doing her own thing, Raquel moved up to be my main assistant. And now we have someone else, Kendra, who's helping Raquel, who's doing a fantastic job. And my hope is when we're trying to get this half hour going as well. Can't say where, but stay tuned. I'm going to hopefully have Raquel be our writer's assistant. Kendra will move up to be the main assistant, and then we'll bring someone else to help her up. And there'll be a constant revolving door.
Amazing. Okay, Raquel, you the plug. So I
And my
have.
fiance loves Kendra, by the way. At the next. Yeah, no, you love Raquel, but you always talk about how Kendra's great. Like, but that's again, we're gonna have a new one. She loves Raquel too.
Like, no.
It's a battle of the assistants, babe. I'm saying, but you talking about you love Kendra. Oh, they're both phenomenal. Here come Alana, my fiance. Give me the what table read? Okay, there we go. Thanks for direction. Thanks,
Thank you,
Alana.
Alana. Thank you, Alana, for doing a little segue for me too. Go ahead.
Well, no, I do this thing called the table read series where, well, one, I don't believe in putting work out until you've tabled it. Anybody does that, I think it's a dangerous practice. You have to hear your work out loud because you reading it think it's Shakespeare, and then you hear it out loud, and you're like, oh, this is more Tyler Perry. So at the end of the day, I think to me, I think it's really important. No shade. I mean, it's like audiences receive that, but if that's not what you're trying to do. You really want to need to. And here's the truth: even if you don't have like a bunch of Oscar winners in your back pocket, I don't either. But there's a lot of people that say, "I want to be an actor." I'm like, okay, great. You want to come like read this role, and so I can hear what it sounds like. More often than not, they go, "Yeah, great." Table reads are a lot of fun, and also in the TV world, we don't produce an episode of television until we've tabled it. So it's so interesting to me that like in the professional industry, we can't shoot an episode of television until it's been a table read. Right. That's just how it is. And so because that's such an industry standard, I kind of wanted people to understand what that feels like. And also it's really important for new writers to hear their work out loud. So what we do is we organize it, we run out of space, and I do all the heavy lifting. I call on actors. And by the way, Tessa Thompson, one who's come to a bunch of table reads as well. Nobody's being paid. Journey. A lot of people I know. Aisha Hines has come to them. These actors are really great, and they don't care whose script it is, whatever. I'm just saying, yo, come. Here's your role. And they sometimes we'll send them the script beforehand. Other times they'll read it cold. But we're not a little theater space. We make copies of the script. We have actors there, and then I have a couple of friends of mine who are writers I trust. Oftentimes Justin Simeon's there, friend of mine Ben Jones, or sometimes writers from The Shy, and we come and then we hear the script out loud, and then afterward, myself and the writers, we talk about it. I'm sort of the maestro. I go around and I say, hey, Justin, what worked about this for you? And he'll talk about it. He'll say, hey, I really like the characters, or I really enjoyed how when the climax happens, or I really like the last act, or I like the way it's ending. It's like, okay, what didn't work for you? He's like, this character to me was a little not, sort of fully developed, or to me, the first act is a little confusing. And then what happens is I'll have either someone like Raquel or one of them, my interns or mentees, they're there taking notes. So the writer, all they got to do is just listen. They're not taking notes. They're not doing anything. They're sitting there listening to their work out loud, and then they're listening to us have a dialogue about it. And all the while, the interns are taking notes. And so then afterwards, they get a document about the strengths, what's working, and what isn't. And also, too, I don't believe that actors should be treated like second-class citizens. So once the writers have done all the heavy lifting in terms of story and plot and things like that, we turn it over to the actors and say, hey, speak to me from your character's perspective. Because there's things that they can tell us that I don't always pick up on. Like one of the greatest things the actor said to me is like, hey, I felt like I repeated this beat twice. And I go, oh, that's great. I didn't pick up on that because I'm thinking more story and plot. Another person said, my character completely disappears after the first act. And I go, huh, that's true. Okay, didn't pick up on that. So oftentimes the actors give us things that we as writers, because we're always focusing on like story or tone or pacing, and they're talking about the characters in a real interesting way because that's what all they're focusing on. And so the actors really love it because they get to meet other people and be a part of the conversation, and they get to watch and listen to us talk about the script, because I think actors should be just as informed about the craft as writers are. So when they read a bad script, they know not to go and audition for it. They go, I'm gonna sit this one out. Mm-hmm. So for me, and it's also a great way to build community because it's a bunch of writers and actors and artists in a room, and also for the writer's assistant, it's also really cool for them to be around that and to be learning. It's also a great skill to have. So and we try to do that about once a month, and I just think it's really exciting and really cool. And I do it with my scripts too. So it's a great thing that we do. It's called the Table Read series.
That's awesome. Well, call me for the next one.
Yeah. And we also have people that come and just sort of like, just sit in the back and just sort of like kind of observe, which is cool too.
That is dope.
Yeah.
So anything, I am going to open this up for Q&A.
Cool.
But before that, anything you want to say to us about what's coming up, and specifically, what do you want from The Shy?
What's coming up? Well, right now, I also produced a movie called Stepsisters that's streaming on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
Check it out if you haven't. Holla at me on Twitter if you love it or hate it. I want to hear your thoughts. But yeah, it's basically about this black girl who has to teach a bunch of white sorority girls how to step. It's sort of Sister Act, Me Stomp the Yard. So I hope you dig it. I produced that. Chuck Hayward wrote it. Charles Stone directed it. He also directed Drumline. Anybody's seen that movie, which I love. And I produced it with my boy Ben Jones. So very excited about that. It's streaming right now, Netflix and chill when you get a chance. And then I'm going to be in Spielberg's next movie called Ready Player One, which comes out March 30th.
That's amazing. Can you tell us anything further, or
I can't, no. But
I
it's
tried,
cool.
y'all.
I think it'll be cool. I haven't even seen it yet. I think I'll see it next month. I was very honored to be a part of that. I was in London for 4 months filming. It's definitely a big movie. Half of it is motion capture, talking about VR. That's what the movie kind of is really a lot about. If people are familiar with the book, Ready Player One, it's all about the Oasis and virtual reality and things like that. So in a way, no one is as they seem in this movie. You can't even believe what your eyes are telling you in this film. But it's sort of, I think, Steven getting back to those big movies that he sort of like kicked off with, and it just feels amazing to be a part of that. And The Shy, man, I'm hoping if y'all keep watching, hopefully we'll get that official pickup. I feel like I was reading that we officially got a season 2. I think it's coming, but it hasn't come yet. I don't know where that's coming. It's coming. But yeah, I mean, for me with The Shy, I just hope that people continue to rock with us. I think I'm really proud of our first season. First seasons are always tough because you're trying to find it, you're trying to figure it out. But I really feel like these characters and these actors have really just breathed so much life into these stories that myself and the writers are trying to tell. And I'm just really excited. I mean, people who are like, yo, man, I'm so hooked and invested in the first 2 episodes, you have no idea what's coming. It's only going to continue to get more emotional, and the roller coaster is going to get scarier. And and characters are going to do things you don't expect. And they're all trying to figure out what it means to be, a man. And that's a unique journey. I'm just really grateful that we can just show what it means to be human and black in 2018. Yeah.
Let's give a round of applause for Lena. And I do want to open up for Q&A. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So I'm going to open this up for Q&A, so you guys can ask any questions that you want. Anybody have a question? Alexis?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Phenomenal. It's interesting because he's very aware of who he is. So, but here's the great thing about him. He's a giant that doesn't make you feel small. That's the thing about him. Like, he's so great. And he's the Jewish father I never knew I needed. You know what I mean? Like, he's always the first person. And that's the thing, too, is like when you work on his films, you're not just a hired hand. He's been such a huge part of my life. I mean, since we wrapped, after the Emmy, he was the first person to send a note, first person to send a gift. And he just really believes in me, I think, and which means a ton. Like, every time I see him, he always greets me with so much love and just enthusiasm. And it's funny because he wasn't a part of the audition process for the film, which thank God, or else I probably wouldn't have got it. So I met him for the first time at a party. Like, it was some they do this like night before a party, which is like really a fundraiser for a good cause before the Oscars or something. And so that's where I met him for the first time. And you haven't lived until like Steven Spielberg looks at you from across the room and like climbs over a couch to like come give you a hug and go, oh my God, it's so and so. I can't say because he called me by my character's name, which I can't say. But he's like, oh my God, you're gonna be in the movie. And of course because it's him. He was talking to Leonardo DiCaprio at the time, and so. And he turns and he tells Leo, he's like, she's gonna be in my movie. Like, she's gonna be in my movie. And Leo looks at me and he goes, man, it's all downhill from here. He's like, doesn't get better than this. This is your first movie? I was like, yeah, it's the first movie I've ever been in. And so he's like, this is your first movie? Leo's like, yeah, man. He's like, how are you gonna survive? He's like, this is the best experience you're ever gonna have. Everything else is gonna pale in comparison. Congratulations. I was like, it's so great. So, but it's real. It was a phenomenal experience. And that's the other cool thing too, because people are like, oh my God, it's Spielberg. And like, yeah, and he's that, and he's a genius, and he can talk to you about anything. You bring up any subject, he'll talk to you for about 45 minutes because he's that smart. And also he's a lover of film. Like, if you name any movie that's out, like, he's seen it, he has an opinion about it, which I love because that's who I am. And yeah, like, he's just a really wonderful human being. And also his family was on set. Like, I met his dad. I met his 3 of his kids. His wife was there like almost every day. So it was a really wonderful experience. And that's the other thing too, because it's like once the first day you're sort of like, oh wow, this is cool. But by the third or fourth day, you're like, hey Steven, what's up? What are we doing today? Okay, cool. All right, great, let's go. You know, it just sort of becomes you become a part of that family, and you're there to do the work, and you're not as like thrown by it, and which is also kind of crazy because you're just like, oh yeah, this is my normal. Just here talking to him and like working and wearing like a freaking bodysuit with like dots all over it. Like it just becomes very normal, which is very interesting. But it was great. It was phenomenal.
That's awesome. Anyone else? Any other questions? Really? Oh. Yes, Mimi.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Right. Well, here's the funny thing. I wrote it in London while I was filming Ready Player One, just because that's just how the schedule worked out. And that's also a big reason why I didn't want to write it, because I knew I had that coming, and that was just sort of, there's a thing to your brain. You're like, I can't fuck this up. I got to like really like be like all in. But Aziz and Alan were like, but we really need you to like, you got to write this episode. Like they're like, nobody else can write it. So I was like, okay. So I was like, look, well, I'll be in London if Aziz is down to come out. And so he flew out to London, and we found the 3 days where I wasn't working, and we were in a hotel room for 3 days. So we wrote it in 3 days because we didn't have a choice. Wow. Yeah. So we wrote that, and it was a phenomenal experience writing it. We literally passed the laptop back and forth. Like I would like write, he would leave me. He actually left the room when I had to write the actual coming out scene, because I sort of really need to be alone with my thoughts and just remember it as best I could. But yeah, when I was done writing it, I felt really good about it. I was sort of like, okay, that feels good. Which also was, again, like sort of growing as an artist of when to say, all right, I'm not about to, keep messing with this. There's something very raw and pure about it. So we finished it. He and I would sometimes go back. We'd like tweak things in terms of jokes and stuff like that, but nothing major. And then, and the filming of it was really phenomenal, because there were days like where Alan and Aziz were not on set, and it would just be me, Melina, Angela, and the kids, and Kim. It was just like all these women of color just sort of like making this thing that was very personal to me, and they all cared so much about it and like making sure we got it right. And also to Angela just sort of like raises the bar, and she's just like comes in. It was like having an adult, at school that was making sure, we were on our best behavior. But, and then when I saw it for the first time, I saw Melina's cut like on my computer, and I remember thinking, that's good. That's good. That's good. I remember watching it with Alana. We were like, yeah, it's good. Funny. I enjoyed it. But that was it. I was never like, oh man, this is about to be like, I never did that. So, and I thought, great, cool. How awesome is it? Like we have like a Black episode of Master of None this season. Fantastic. That's it. And then once it comes out, because again, when you're on a Netflix show, your interaction with the audience is very unique, because you're not coming out once a week. You come out once every couple of years, and then you sort of see tweets or Instagram or things like that when people sort of slowly start to react to it. Although Aziz would hit me and be like, yo, people are really reacting to the Thanksgiving episode. And I go, okay, all right, okay, you're just being nice. But once it was out, we slowly started to see people were like, no, the Thanksgiving. And then people were just writing like think pieces about it, like outside of us. And we were like, what the hell? So that kind of caught me a little bit off guard, because it was that thing, because it's my story, I guess I didn't think it was that extraordinary. But then I didn't realize once it was out how much people needed that. I really didn't. But then I should have known, because I'm like, oh, because it didn't exist in the culture anywhere. We had not seen that. But I'm so happy that queer people of color specifically have hit me and been like, thank you for telling our story in that way. But also, too, what's so phenomenal, so many straight white dudes come up to me and go, it's my favorite episode of television ever in life. And they go, because I know what it feels like to be an outsider in my own home when I go home for Thanksgiving. So to me, like, that's when art is doing his job, when he can see himself in me. You know what I'm saying? And we're like, that's talk about souls connecting. That's the really thing about even like with Shy, like people like White Housewife in Brentwood's, like it's my favorite show, and I go, wow, that's amazing. So now when she hears a story about a young Black boy being shot and killed, it's not just background noise. She wants to know, did he have a nickname? What did he have for breakfast this morning? Who's missing him right now? You know what I'm saying? Through fictitious characters, we can really see each other. So I'm really grateful that people's reaction was what it was, but I really, no one was more surprised than me, truly.
I'm going to piggyback off that. I'm pausing it.
Yeah.
What was your mom's reaction to that episode?
She barely even knows how to turn Netflix on. Like, I think my sister had to, like, go figure that out. But I mean, I think, and also too, I got far away from it, so I think both of us had kind of like, I think the wounds have sort of healed. But she, I think, was just more intrigued by the fact that Angela Bassett was
I was
playing
gonna
her.
say
I don't
that.
think she like really. I don't think she even realized what the episode was about. I was like, you are aware it's like about coming out. I was like, okay, but Angela Bassett's playing me. Cool.
That's what I was gonna say. All right. That's funny. Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes.
Oh, what's up?
Oh wait.
Oh, I saw Aaliyah over here. Wait, up.
We'll go this way
with
and
the
then this way.
sister.
So
The sister's gonna get the question. Okay, too. But no, go ahead.
I just wanted to know, like, at what point in your career were you challenged with what you believe and your values, and how did you react to?
I don't know. I feel like as an artist, you're always challenged. I mean, somebody's always going to have a thought or a note on what you're doing. You just got to know when to be married to it and when not to be. Like if it's really significant and the root of your story, then stick with it. But if it's something where you're just holding on to it and it's precious for precious sake, then you're being that person where you just want people to watch you work. Either you're gonna be collaborative and you're gonna be open or not. And I believe that, being collaborative is important to a point. You don't want it to be, art by committee, because that's never fun. But people are gonna constantly challenge every step of the way. So you gotta know when to go, that's a good point, and also when to go, then we're making a different movie. Aaliyah?
I just want to know what dream of yours, if there is one that exists, that you're not currently aware that you've taken steps towards, been directed towards to realize. You do everything.
I don't do everything. I don't want to direct. I don't want to do that. I don't think I have that gene. But I mean, I think the true thing that's sort of happening organically, that's sort of stemming from everything, whether it be the writing, the acting, the producing, but really to really building out a production company that I hope will be a house for so many writers who are just othered. Whether it be someone from the trans community, the Native American community, someone with disability. Like, I want to be a place where, the reject toys come. Like, come on, like let's figure out like what this is. Let's develop it. Let's get it to a place where it's phenomenal and really great. Because a great story isn't enough. You know what I mean? It's about how do we make it sing? How do we make it just so palpable that people can't turn away? That's my mission, is to really bring people in and go, yeah, I got this dope idea. I got this really cool project. Blah, 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 blah. I always go, okay, well, where is it at? Like, what's going on? Like, show me the bones of it. And let's try to make something that the town can't deny, or if the town denies it, make them regret it later. But that's the goal, really, is just to really help other people, which we're trying to do. Yeah.
one last question. Did you have one?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Or maybe we can do two. I'm cool.
Yeah, I'll go for
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
BuzzFeed and VR, do you have a point of view on like new emerging technology platforms, or I noticed you're wearing a movie pass hat and I see that they're online films. Do you have a point of view on some emerging technology or
I think it's interesting. I don't focus on how it's going to get out as much. I focus more on like making sure it's like solid and good. Like, that takes up enough time, because I know like that all this stuff is going to change in terms of like how media is distributed. It just will. And I know like the movie pass thing is a way to get more people to go to the movies and not just watch things on their TV screen or their phone or their tablets. I don't care how people take in the media, as long as it's not sort of taking away from the art. It's like, would I prefer people watch The Shine on the TV set? Sure. But if somebody's like, yo, I like watching shit on my phone, that's their prerogative. Just how I don't have any real say on how people interpret my art, I don't have any say on how they take it in. So if they want to watch it on their phone, they want to watch it on a big screen, if they want to like put it up like on a wall somewhere, that's their prerogative. That's not my concern. trying to make sure the characters are fine, the dialogue is working, the story, that's enough for me to worry about. Once it's done, I don't care if somebody wants to watch it with the VR mask or all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't, that's just not where my brain goes. I've never worried, and maybe I should worry about that. But I'm such a purist. I just care so much about what's on the page and making sure it translates while filming. That's all I want to worry about. And then the distributor can kind of take it from there.
And we had one last question back here, yes?
Yes. Hey. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, love. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. I received that. That means a lot. For me, I think my inspirations, honestly, Debbie Allen is one. And I know she's a really great director, but the fact that she's such a phenomenal choreographer, she's such a funny actress, and she really did help shape the look and feel of what A Different World was. A lot of people don't give her a lot of credit for that. You see her name in the credits a ton. She directed a lot of episodes. She produced a lot of episodes. But her, Susan Fels Hill, and Yvette Lee Bowser, the three of them, three brown women, really kind of came together and said, okay, here's what we're going to do with this show, because it's a struggle. And they really were like, we're going to put Jasmine Guy at the forefront. We're going to create a love story with her and Dwayne. We're going to do these sort of different things. We're going to have these characters talk about issues that are happening in the world. And they're like, we're going to make this a really political platform every Thursday night on NBC. Those three women sort of banded together and really inspired me. My production company is called Hillman Grad Productions. Like, talk about really having it like a stamp on me. They really inspired me a ton. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Spike Lee. I watched Do the Right Thing every day for a whole summer. And and because I could smell, I would eat pizza and watch it all the time because you could just smell the pizza through the screen. And there was just, and a lot of his movies, like, I was too young to be watching, but I'm grateful for having a single parent who worked too many jobs so I could kind of do what I wanted. But, Do the Right Thing, School Days, Crooklyn, Malcolm X, those movies are left his fingerprints are all in my brain, and I'm just really grateful because he really, everything from it's the way he introduced me to jazz. I didn't really know what that was. I wasn't listening to jazz music, but I could tell there was something powerful. And also too, I know his dad did a lot of these, which is also so. And it was something where it felt like him, the score. And I'm I wonder why. Oh, because his father is doing a lot of this. So that. And also, too, again, seeing him work with the same actors and seeing them be, seeing Giancarlo Esposito be, bugging out one minute and then seeing his Dean Big Brother Almighty in the next. And so, that really, really left a real impact on me as well. It was really, really important for me to see those images. But yeah, I think really sort of those people, and then also certain movies just really left a stamp. My aunt was really particular for some reason, and I'm grateful for this, to making me see movies that were shot in Chicago. So I saw Love Jones when it was in the theater. I was way too young, but obviously just grabbed a hold of me. I remember seeing Ferris Bueller, My Best Friend's Wedding, and there was something interesting where she was like, these movies were shot in the city in which you live. That you should take pride in these movies. Look, that's a neighborhood, that's a landmark that they came here to shoot their movie. And so that was just very important to see those films and to see my city on screen was huge. So all of those things were inspirations, those people, those images, and Casey Lemons as well, who did Eve's Bayou, is someone I really look up to and admire. And it's tough because, Eve's Bayou sort of came, and I know she sort of was always sort of trying to figure out what the next thing was, but it's the same thing with Love Jones. Theodore Witcher's still trying to get his second film off. I want to help him. That's a dream I have. I'm theater, let's come on, please. You can't die only making just Love Jones. You're too good. But it's funny, I had lunch with him and he was like, maybe that's all I have. Maybe that's the best I'll ever get. He's like, it ain't for lack of trying. He's like, I'm a filmmaker. Of course I want to make movies. And he was like, people didn't appreciate Love Jones until 10 years after it had been out. Now people call it a classic. He's like, I can't buy a gig. He's like, people don't, and I'm like, what? So I said to him, and that's something I'm really proud of that, because I was like, I told my agents, I was like, get me in front of Ted Witcher, please. You know, and I got to tell him like how much that movie meant. He was like, you like, you know, the millionth person. He's like, but it still means something. But he's like, but what about my sophomore film? I'm like, whatever I can do, brother. Like, please, it's the least I could do is help you in some way. Because I can turn on Love Jones right now and feel like I'm at home. It's home to me. Talk about painting a picture of us. This fool had like people doing spoken word poetry, people falling in love, talking about the possibility and all this and that. You know, cheese omelet, you know. There's things like about that you just sort of don't forget. So, you know, so that's an inspiration that I look at and go like, how can I'm now reaching out to touch him and be like, let's get back in the wagon. Let's keep going. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank
As
you.
a young brown girl creating content, writing, acting, producing, I look to people like you to show me the way, to drop gems so that I could pick them up and do the same thing. And then one day I could be in that seat saying
You
my
will
story.
be. You will
Thank
be.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's give it up for Lena. Thank you.